Think about the last time you threw food away because it smelled wrong. Now, imagine that same food is the only thing standing between your family and starvation. You are alive thousands of years before refrigerators, expiration dates, microscopes, or any understanding of bacteria. Milk turns sour, fruit begins to bubble, wet grain changes smell, meat darkens in the heat. Most food that rots can make you sick. Some of it can kill you. But somewhere in human history, someone watched food begin to change and ate it anyway. Not by accident, on purpose. That dangerous instinct to taste, wait, and try again eventually helped give us bread, cheese, yogurt, beer, wine, vinegar, and ways to preserve food long after it should have been lost. But without science, labels, or anyone to tell them what was safe. How did our ancestors learn the difference between food that was rotting and food that was becoming something better? To an ancient person, the difference would have been almost impossible to see. Both kinds of food could soften, bubble, change color, or produce a powerful smell. One transformation could feed you. Another could leave you vomiting beside the fire, or never waking up again. Today, we separate spoilage from fermentation. Spoilage makes food unpleasant or dangerous. During fermentation, certain yeasts, bacteria, or molds break down parts of the food and produce acid, alcohol, or gas. Those new conditions can make it harder for some dangerous competitors to survive. Ancient humans could not see any of this happening. They could only see the result. No one had to invent fermentation before it could happen. Wild microorganisms were already living on fruit, grain, animals, containers, hands, and nearly every surface people touched. Crushed fruit juice could begin changing. Ground grain mixed with water could bubble or rise. Fresh milk held in a warm container could sour and thicken. None of this required a person to understand why. The discovery was probably not one heroic ancestor eating the first suspicious bowl. It was likely thousands of accidents happening in different places. Most disappeared. A useful one was remembered. Someone noticed that this batch smelled familiar. Someone survived the first taste. Someone kept a portion, reused the container, or repeated the same steps, and the strange food returned. Before written recipes, the recipe lived inside the group. Use this vessel. Add this much salt. Wait until it smells like this. Throw it away if it turns that color. Ancient people learned through sight, smell, touch, taste, memory, and the experiences of everyone who had eaten before them. They did not need the word microorganism to recognize a reliable pattern, but learning was dangerous. A failed experiment could waste precious food. A poison batch could kill the person who tested it. What looks like a simple traditional recipe may carry the memory of countless attempts that went wrong. Knowledge became protection. Children watched adults. Families repeated successful methods. Communities turned observations into rules and habits that could survive longer than any one person. Some of the oldest evidence shows that humans were processing grain in complicated ways before they were full-time farmers. At a hunter-gatherer site in what is now Jordan, archaeologists found charred flatbread remains made about 14,400 years ago. The people gathered wild plants, ground them, mixed them, and cooked the dough before domesticated grain became a foundation of farming. At Raqefet Cave in what is now Israel, researchers found evidence of grain being malted and fermented roughly 13,000 years ago. The drink was probably very different from modern beer, and appears to have been prepared for ritual feasts connected to the dead. This was not someone forgetting wet grain and drinking the puddle. It required collecting, sprouting, crushing, heating, and fermenting. Humans were no longer merely tolerating transformation, they were learning to cause it. Later, domesticated animals created another problem. Milk was rich in calories, but it spoiled quickly. Many adults also had difficulty digesting large amounts of it. Then milk changed. When certain bacteria soured milk, it became more acidic. It could thicken into something resembling yogurt or separate into curds that could be drained, salted, pressed, and stored as cheese. Fermentation reduced some of the lactose, while cheese concentrated fat and protein into a form that traveled more easily. The beginning is lost because early tools made from leather, wood, baskets, or cloth rarely survived. But archaeological evidence places cheesemaking in the Near East by roughly 7,000 BC and parts of Europe by about 6,000 BC. Milk had not simply gone bad. Humans had taught it to become something else. The real breakthrough was learning how to favor the right transformation again and again. Salt pulled water from food and made life harder for many unwanted organisms. Acid challenged other competitors. Drying, smoking, cooling, heating, sealing, and choosing the right container changed which invisible life took control. People carried success from one batch into the next. Old dough could help new dough rise. Liquid or sediment from a successful batch could begin another. A reused vessel might hold the organisms that created a familiar result. They did not know they were managing ecosystems, but that is what they were doing, and it could still fail. The wrong temperature, too little salt, contamination, or unfamiliar mold could ruin a batch. Some dangers changed the color, texture, or smell. Others were harder to detect. Communities could not identify toxins or pathogens, but they remembered what happened after people ate. The rules were imperfect, yet every reliable step reduced uncertainty. In a world of seasonal hunger, an imperfect way of saving food could still mean reaching spring. Once humans could repeat these transformations, fermented food became more than emergency survival. Grain became bread shared around a fire or a drink served at a burial feast. Milk became cheese carried away from the herd. Fruit became wine. Other ingredients changed according to the climate and traditions of the people making them. Fermentation created new flavors, helped preserve seasonal abundance, made some foods easier to digest, and sometimes made nutrients more available. Just as importantly, it gave communities something recognizable. A successful batch tasted like the batches before it. The method belonged to a family village or region. What began as a gamble with suspicious food became inheritance, a taste taught from one generation to the next. Humans were not only preserving food anymore, they were preserving identity. So why did ancient humans eat rotten food on purpose? Strictly speaking, the successful food was not rotten in the way we use that word today. But to someone who could not see microbes, fermentation and decay began with the same signs: bubbles, sourness, powerful smells, and food changing in ways no human hand seemed to control. Our ancestors learned through observation, risk, repetition, and memory. Under the right conditions, the invisible world did not always destroy their food. Sometimes it transformed it. Sometimes it protected it. Sometimes it made it better. That ancient experiment is still sitting in your kitchen. It is in bread rising, yogurt souring, cheese aging, vinegar sharpening, and every fermented food that might confuse someone encountering it for the first time. Humanity did not survive by avoiding every strange thing growing in its food. We survived by learning which changes to fear and which ones to pass around the fire. Before we knew what microbes were, we learned how to bargain with them.